Hello everybody, I'm Joanne Haigh. We welcome our viewers and listeners in Barbados and around the world to another episode of Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, CBC Barbados Facebook and YouTube, and of course Q 100.7 FM radio. Now before I introduce our special guest, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends watching and listening, persons in the diaspora, of course, you Barbadians in Canada and UK. I know it's not your Thanksgiving, but I know you watch the show too, so I want to shout you out as well. I also want to say how thankful I am for a few people in my life, and if I have a moment, I want to share that with you. I want to give thanks for my mother, Ismay Singh. She's watching. Good morning to you, Mom. I want to give thanks for my daughters, Sky and Mistral. Give thanks to Sky's grandfather, Edwin Sweeney, who's also watching. I want to give thanks to Auntie Kathy, who is at home right now looking after my daughter, Sky. Thanks to my friends, and thanks for this show. I'm thankful for people like Peter Aline, who recently has been in my life a little bit more often. And I want to say thank you to you for being such an awesome person. And I believe, for what I understand, that is what Thanksgiving is about. We don't celebrate it here in Barbados, but I believe we should be thankful every day. And I just want to say how thankful and grateful I am to be here, to be able to come into your living rooms or wherever you are via radio, in your cars, and share information with you, help you as we try our best to make sure that this program reaches many, and as we face and fix things in this country, and we want to be here for you. So I just really wanted to give thanks, and I'm hoping that you find some time today to say how grateful you are for all of the little things that you have in life. And I know there are many problems, and we understand that, but take a moment and give thanks. Today, we have on our show MAURICE GASKIN, Principal Environmental Health Officer. He joins us and answers our questions on the status of dengue. Now, of course, you know that COVID-19, as usual, has sucked the air out of the entire room, but it's not the only problem that we're having. Dengue is also a problem, and he's here to talk about the dangers and the do's and the don'ts in terms of how we can prevent and lower the mosquito population, and I'm quite looking forward to that conversation. Also, as promised, attorney at law Mark Forde is back. If you can remember 2 weeks ago, we had a heated debate. I probably didn't let him get in a lot of what he had to say, so I brought him back, and we are going to talk about child support and many issues surrounding children and the rights of children and the rights of parents. We want to hear from you. The phone lines are open up to you. Talk about whenever you want. 228-5563 is the number to call, or 228-5562. If you want to send us a WhatsApp message, it's 228-5562. And of course, if you are watching us on social media, type in CBC Barbados, leave your comments there, and we will share them with the public. When we come back, we will talk to Mr. MAURICE GASKIN, and we will be taking your calls when we come back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. I don't know if you know this about me, and I might have shared it before on another show at another station, but I cannot stand mosquitoes and I cannot stand flies. And if I see a mosquito in particular, it's night, you can rest assured I will not be sleeping until I catch it. That and the centipede, but that's another conversation. So to talk to us about the mosquito problems that we have and dengue issues that we still have in this country is Principal Environmental Health Officer, Mr. Maurice Gaskin. Good morning, Mr. Gaskin, and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you. Good morning to viewers at CBC, viewers in Barbados, and viewers across the world. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Of course, we have a serious situation relative to COVID, and to contract COVID along with dengue could be extremely fatal. So my advice here would be to educate you first of all on the mosquito. We have over 1,000 species of mosquitoes in the world. And here in Barbados, we have three of those species. We have the Culex mosquito, which bite you between 6:30 in the evening and 7 a.m. the following morning. And that mosquito transmit elephantiasis. You will see the big feet, big neck, big hands, and so on. Equine encephalitis is another disease transmitted by that mosquito. That's where that mosquito go and bite a horse and take blood from a horse. Horse is an equine animal. That is the mosquito from the disease from the Culex. We also have the Anopheles mosquito at Brim Hall. That mosquito is responsible for the transmission of malaria. But someone will have to come into Barbados and go into that area of malaria for that mosquito to transmit malaria. But the mosquito of significance is the Aedes aegypti mosquito. That mosquito is black and white in color. And that mosquito bite you primarily between 6 in the morning and 7 in the evening. I say primarily because that mosquito is attracted to light. So when I use the word primarily, if you're having bright light, extremely bright light in the night, 10, 11 o'clock, that light will also attract the mosquito and cause the Aedes aegypti mosquito to breed. The Aedes aegypti mosquito is responsible for the transmission of a number of diseases. There are about 28 different diseases transmitted by mosquitoes, but yellow fever is one transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which bite monkeys. You have Zika, you have chikungunya, and you have dengue fever. As I said, the mosquito bite you primarily between 6 in the morning and 7 in the evening. And we know that during that period, the majority of persons, they are at work. So you could basically leave home in a very safe environment and go to your workplace and get sick. So we always advise persons to treat their workplaces just like their home. So what should you look for? Especially in this time, you should spend at least 10 to 15 minutes checking around your premises, at least 10 to 15 minutes. You should start using a clockwise sort of motion, going left, right, or around. Check for your wells, check your septic tanks, check any buckets that could collect water, check tires, check drums, check the toothbrush holder. We have had instances where persons brush the teeth, but the toothbrush in the toothbrush holders, and then that drip from the water from the toothbrush go and settle in the toothbrush holder. You have mosquito breeding there. Check for that that connection under your sink. Something that become defective. Persons place a bucket there to collect the water when you use the sink. We get a lot of mosquito breeding there. Check your flower vases for mosquito breeding. And I'm going to look at examine each and every one. Flower vases. Let me start with flower vases. If
Before
you
you
come to
before you start with the basis, before we, I just want to bring back something with the water. When you said to check with the, say with the toothbrush holder, how long will it take for a mosquito to actually breed in that water, and then be out there? Because there's some people who may change, the vase and the water in the vase every 2 days. They may wash out. Is it like a day, and the mosquito just
within
breeds?
right, John, within 2 to 3 days, you could get the mosquitoes breeding. But mosquitoes go through what's called a complete metamorphosis, which is egg, larvae, pupae, and adult. So when you get the mosquitoes laying the eggs, within 2 days, the eggs hatch to larvae. And then within 2 other days, then you get pupae, where it changed from the larvae to a pupal form. And this is where it get ready to go into the mosquito. So the whole period between egg and adult takes between 7 to 13 days.
So if you have to change anything in water in the vase, it should be daily.
Yes, actually every day or every 2 days. And not only that, you should also scrub the size of the container, because if you, like for instance, we go to premises and we find dog containers, dog pans breeding mosquitoes. The water is crystal clear. The householder tell you that they'll throw up the water and replace it with fresh water. What they did not do was to scrub the algae from around the sides of the dog container, because the eggs usually stick to the size of the container. And then once you throw that water and replace it with fresh water, you will still get mosquito.
Oh, okay. And before we move on, when you made a comment about malaria and someone would have to have malaria come here and be bitten by a mosquito in order to transmit that malaria, is that correct?
Correct.
So would that apply to other things? I mean, what can a mosquito transmit
Right.
besides?
Right. Say that I had dengue. The mosquito bites me. And how it's transmitted, when the mosquito bites me, it takes my blood, which will be infected with the dengue virus, and then it come and bite you. And within between 5 to 8 days, that virus go through your body and then manifests, and then you start seeing signs and symptoms. Retroorbital pain in the eyes. When you move your eyes from left to right, you get them hurting you. Pain in the joints. You feel fatigue. You have headache. You have a serious fever, and so on. And then you don't want to eat. You want to use a lot of fluids and so on. And that is how the disease is transmitted.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very interesting, because honestly, I did not know that. Some people thought it was actual dengue. Mosquito just carries dengue and just bites a person, and that's it. But I didn't know that you could actually be bitten and you have dengue, and then that mosquito then transmits it to another person.
Transmit to other persons.
Do we know how many people it can bite? What's the lifespan of a mosquito?
Right, very good question again. Actually, mosquitoes lay approximately 80 to 100 eggs every 3 days.
Wow.
That is called the gonotrophic cycle. GONOTROPHIC. Gonotrophic cycle. Just so you have adult females having the menstrual cycle, where approximately 1 egg is released, or 2 eggs every month. Mosquitoes have what's called the gonotrophic cycle, where they lay 80 to 100 eggs every 3 days. A mosquito lives for approximately 14 days to 21 days. So you will see that one mosquito will probably lay approximately 500 eggs in its lifetime.
Wow. Is it true that in dry season, the eggs can be there living in dry conditions, and if the rain falls, it can actually, like, more or less revive them somewhat? That is true?
Correct. Actually, the eggs, we have done some experiments, and the eggs could technically survive drought for at least 2 to 3 years without water. That you see,
Wow.
in terms of the plants, the plant saucers. If you have a plant, Joanne, in your house, and you continue to overwet it, that excess water goes into the saucer, and then it rises and then you see a green algae line being formed along the plant pot. That green algae line is called the meniscus, meniscus, and that line, which is normally wet, the mosquitoes look out for that line and deposit the eggs there. And as I said, the eggs could remain there for 2 to 3 years. When you come then and wet that plant and over wet that plant, and that excess water goes up and touch that line, which is called the meniscus, then the eggs that have been there maturing for so long then hatches. So my advice to persons who are having plants and instead of over wetting the plant, what they should do, depending on the size of the plant, they should go to the refrigerator and place about 8 to 10 ice cubes up top the plant. The ice then melts very slow, what's called a slow irrigation process, and the soil then absorbs the ice cubes, the ice water, and you will not have excess water reaching your saucer. That would be my advice, using ice cubes.
When you have an aquarium, obviously then the mosquitoes cannot survive with fish in it. But if it's
that is not so. Actually,
okay, good. That's good to know it's not.
Right. Sometimes you get aquariums, and we have found mosquito breeding. There are some fish who we call great type fish that don't eat the larvae. So you need thousands. There are certain species of fish you need to put into that aquarium that will be attracted to the larvae.
No, you see, I did not know that. I have an aquarium at home, and everybody says, "Oh, don't worry, you know, the fish will eat them." No, you're telling me that there's certain types of fish that don't.
Right.
But if it's covered, if the aquarium is covered, obviously no eggs can be laid, because normally there's nothing that can go in there.
That could go in there. And now that you're on that, as I said, I've given you the containers and I want to give you the solutions.
Right.
If you have a house and you want to capture water coming off of your house roof, and you place a 55-gallon drum under that roof gutter, my advice would be to take a PET bottle, an empty PET bottle, cover it, place it into the 55-gallon drum, and then you could go to one of the hardware stores and purchase some net. You know, these netting you have at your windows. Mm-hmm. You could purchase some of that net, and you could tie it around the top of the drum. What happens, the reason why I say to place that PET bottle into the drum, when the water come off the roof, only the water could go into that drum. When the drum water reaches to the top of the drum and that netting becomes defective and it sags, the mosquitoes could still go and lay eggs there. What the PET bottle does is when the water reaches a certain height, that PET bottle, because of the pressure, pushes the net right up, up in the air, and stop the net from sagging to cause mosquito breeding.
That's an interesting, very interesting one. I think a lot of people, we just, you know, we always hear about the coconut shells, the covers outside and buckets outside, but the smallest little thing like a stopper can actually breed mosquitoes?
Correct. A stopper, we have found stoppers. We have found mosquitoes breeding in some trees. You have like a hollow within a pear tree or soursop tree, and when you rainfall, you have seen that hollow within the tree.
Sir, you said soursop tree can breed mosquitoes, because we grew up hearing to get rid of the mosquitoes, put some soursop leaves on the bed, that the mosquitoes don't like soursop.
Well, that's another topic. Actually, in terms of repellents, if you in your house and you want to look at the natural remedies to repel them, crushing soursop leaves, cerci bush, and so on, could actually repel.
They actually work. They actually work.
And it actually works, yes.
Well, we gotta coming up to a break right now, but when we come back, we're gonna talk about the solutions, how to get rid of them, because I can tell you this, buying spray in the supermarket, I'm just wondering what's in it, because you could be spraying from now to God knows when, and they don't die, not instantly. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how can we get rid of the mosquitoes around the house when we come back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. If you're now joining us, we are speaking with Mr. MAURICE GASKIN, Principal Environmental Health Officer. We're talking about dengue, we're talking about mosquitoes, what can we do to get rid of them. Now, before the break, I mentioned about the use of insecticides and sprays, etc. But before we get into the sprays and killing the actual mosquito, I want to ask about killing the eggs in dry season, so that, because as you said earlier, they can live up to 2 years. There are people, their properties, they have little pockets, in the lawn that would have accumulated water, dried up, but the eggs are still there. We don't know, we can't actually see them, but all of a sudden they come back to life, they're sort of they're reactivated when the rain falls. What can we use to get rid of the eggs first? And then we'll talk about the actual mosquitoes themselves.
Right. You could use, actually, that is called chemical control, using bleach. Like the plant sorcerers, you could take a little bleach and you could apply it around the sides of the plant pot using a scrubbing brush and scrub them. You could use diesel oil if you see mosquitoes in the tire, kerosene, diesel. If you had to choose between the kerosene and diesel, it's preferable that you use kerosene, which is lighter and will spread more evenly across the water surface. You could use what we call mosquito dumps, and that in terms of biological control. But mosquito dumps look something like a donut, and they're very good for water tanks. Um, Physical control is another way to control mosquitoes. That in terms of your roof gutter should never remain at 180 degrees. You start at 180 degrees and then you dip, and for every 10 feet you dip at least by a quarter inch. That is called a gradient, where that when the rain fall, the water will not remain stagnant, it would run off. In terms of the control of mosquitoes, you look at source reduction. You need to get rid of the old fridges, the old stoves, the buckets, the old tires, or basically old shoes, knocking around all old car parks, all those things you need to remove from your premises, because mosquitoes need water to breed. So this myth about vacant lots with harbor or trap rats, rodents, but persons will have to dump containers there to attract mosquitoes. So vacant lots in itself would not breed mosquitoes unless there was a depression within the vacant lot, like a vehicle passed through and the tire marks put a big hole into the vacant lot, and then you get the accumulation of water. And also what we have also been doing in Ministry of Health is in terms of fogging. Fogging, of course, is diesel oil and malathion. Actually, 1 part of malathion to 23 parts of diesel is placed into a fogging machine. The fogging machine generates about 1200 degrees of heat. So when that liquid passes to the combustion chamber, the fogging machine, it converts the liquid of fog. But I must tell you that saying that mosquitoes go through this transformation, which is egg, larvae, pupae, and adult, fogging only kills the adult. And if you're not seeing the fogging truck by you should be happy. Anytime you're seeing the fogging truck in your area, it means that someone probably has dengue, number one. Probably the inspectorate went into that area and found an unusual amount of mosquitoes there. Probably you had a lot of complaints for that particular area. So those are the variables that determine where we fog.
Okay, let's go back to the water tanks. I actually have a rainwater tank. The guttering is set up and it's on a slant. There's no cover, obviously. So how can I treat that?
The water tank should be covered. When the pipe, that inlet pipe that's going into the water tank, you should have that sealed. You could seal that with some flash
to be honest with you, I gotta go and check and see if it's sealed. I don't get in my backyard very often, but I will check and see if it's sealed.
It should be sealed, and before you seal it, what you could do, the mosquito dumps look like a donut, and they're available from the hardware stores, pretty cheap. You could get at least 5 for at least $25, and you could place 2 or 3 in there, and that could take care of your water tank for at least 3 months.
And that's rainwater. Yes. That's also for potable water as well. Potable water tanks is safe.
Well, we won't advise it is, but because of bacterial type thing to treat. But I won't advise it to put into the potable water. I know before the break you mentioned about sprays. These sprays, you say don't seem to be working.
Yes.
I want to address that. Today's payday, the 25th for public workers, and if we go to the supermarket and we shop and buy our groceries and we include a tin of spray, my advice, that particular tin of spray you purchase this month, when you purchase your groceries next month, change the spray. If you look at the chemical concentration and the active ingredient within the sprays, all of them are different. So if you keep on buying a particular brand or insecticide spray, then the mosquitoes will get immune to that particular insecticide. Let me explain something what I mean by that. Say you're getting mosquitoes now and you go home and you spray. Obviously, you don't want to remain in the household with that smell from the insecticide. So you get in your car, you go to a restaurant and you eat some food, and then you come back when that spray have dissipated. What happens is when you spray your house, and there are about 100 mosquitoes in your house, and you start from the back door and you come in right up to the front door to shut the door to get in your car to leave the house. What happens is when you start from the back door, there are about 100 mosquitoes in the house. The mosquitoes up front that start to smell this insecticide dart through the louvers or through the bathroom window and get away. So if 10 out of the 100 get away and the spray kill 90, the 10 that get away, saying that they would have a slight touch of that spray, when they lay the eggs, the offspring would not be killed by that particular brand of spray.
You are serious? Are you serious?
serious as a judge.
Jeez.
So you need
Wow.
to say Joanne, you buy X spray this month. You should change B spray next month, C spray the following month, and you should return then to X spray probably in February when that generation of mosquitoes would
This
have
is not
gone.
common knowledge, I can tell you. This is not, because people are accustomed, as you know, people buy their brands. So they're buying laundry detergent or,
Right.
dishwashing. They have a tendency to pick up the same
So
thing. Similarly for
you need
sprays.
to, right, you
I
need
do.
to change, you need
You
to
need to
change
change
the
your
sprays
sprays.
in, right. You need to change it. If you doubt me, and you go and pick up three separate brands of spray, you will see that all the active ingredient is different. And if it's the same, the concentration for A may be 8%, and that active ingredient in another spray may be 12%.
Would
So
that
the
apply to flies as
concentration.
well and cockroaches?
Um, it could, yes, especially roaches. Yes, it could. So you need to be changing the things intermittently and so on.
Well, the traditional way for me, I mean, if I see one, most people try to see if they can catch a mosquito. And I've broken up a few things in the house trying to get one because there are some people, like myself, cannot sleep when a mosquito is present. No, I remember growing up hearing that the mosquitoes that buzz in your ears are the harmless ones. Do all of them
The the
buzz?
the mosquito, the male mosquito actually buzz. That's the male mosquito, and the male mosquito do not cause harm to you. The male mosquito feeds on plants and fruit juices. Is the female mosquito that bites you and take your blood and
Now, why did it have
transmit.
to be a woman? I don't understand.
Well, of course, men don't lay eggs. Rabbit eggs are
Fair enough.
females with the eggs, right? And as I mentioned, they lay approximately 80 to 100 eggs every 3 days. Well, I'm at it. I want to implore Barbadians who are building houses, having houses constructed, say like I live in St. James and I'm building a house in St. Philip. You need to visit that property pretty often, at least every 2 weeks or so, especially because we have found that when you're building when there's heavy rainfall, the cement blocks. We have had a house where we found 51 of those blocks breeding mosquitoes. So you need to visit the house after heavy rainfall and place some bleach or oil or sand within the block holes of the cement blocks.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not sure you might be able to answer about the dengue cases. You do represent the Ministry of Health. Do we have an increase in the year, for the last couple of months?
Here at the Eunice Gibson Park, where I'm at, I have not seen any significant increase in dengue or reported cases of dengue. What I think that may have attributed to that is that you have persons being home now a lot, and probably they're using the opportunity to check around the premises and so on. Especially now with the COVID, they're more conscious and so on around the premises. So we have not been seeing a lot of mosquito activity. I have not had a lot of calls or a lot of complaints for mosquito breeding here at Eunice Gibson. What I find is that every day we're receiving at least 4 to 5 complaints of vacant lots. And I think the onus is on homeowners to clean the lots. They need to visit the lots and clean the lots. Because once a lot remain with a lot of bush and overgrown vegetation, it entices persons to dump illegally on that lot. And once they dump, the containers then could collect water and breed mosquitoes and also harbor rodents.
So are you in a position to say what would the ministry do? What can we do? Who can we call, to complain about these things and then have them removed? Because before we put this question out there, people call and they said, look, I have a lot next to me full of bush and it got rats in it, got mosquitoes. This man is parking his vehicles and they're old and he won't move them. And there are a lot of complaints out there, and we can get into that, and I hope you're in a position to speak to that. Who can they call and what can they do? But before you answer that question, I just want to put this out here to you by this WhatsApper. Do mosquitoes breed in dark areas, or is it that they just like the dark?
Yes, they are attracted to dark areas and black. We in the Ministry of Health, we monitor the mosquito activity at the ports of entry. If you go to the Grantley Adams Airport right now, there are about 38 black jam bottles or peanut bottles with a stick in it. We place them at all the airlines up there, and we monitor for mosquito breeding at the port. So that bottle would have been white or clear, and we sprayed it black to attract the mosquitoes, and that is a way of monitoring the mosquito situation. It's called OVI trapping. OVI, the word over means to trap eggs, and we have them at the Bridgetown Port, Port St. Charles, Grantley Adams Airport, and the Bridgetown Port. So yes, they are attracted to black areas.
So
if you're wearing black clothing, the mosquitoes will attack her. If you're have on black clothing.
I certainly heard that one growing up for sure. And even with your laundry in the laundry basket, if you see dark clothing, you move it, you would see mosquitoes landing on it. So let's get back now to what I think viewers and listeners for sure are very passionate about. I've had so many complaints about this. And callers, please feel free to take full advantage of the fact that the Principal Environmental Health Officer is here. You can call us at 228-5562 or 228-5563. Now, people are complaining that persons with their lots, I know I had one next to me, and I had to get some people in the area, some guys, and pay them to clean it up. And then there are other people who complain about the old fridges and cars and next door to them, and people living in their homes. They're proud of their homes, but the neighbor got the place next to them look like Sanford and Son junkyard. What can they do to get these places and areas cleaned up?
What they could do is call the polyclinic within the jurisdiction. Like for instance, my jurisdiction starts at Eagle Hall by the gas station and go right up to Hillaby. We're responsible for at least 15,500 premises within our catchment. Mm-hmm. We have served a lot of notices. This book is our regulation book, and all cars and all disused containers fall under the health services collection and disposal of refuse regulations. I have served, I have been here in February from this year, and I've served a lot of notices on persons to remove. We have been successful in having a lot of appliances, all appliances and cars removed. That fall under the health services collection and disposal of refuse regulations. So persons need to the jurisdiction, like for instance, from the Hastings to the airport is the Randall Phillips Polyclinic. They could call the Randall Phillips Polyclinic. David Thompson Polyclinic is responsible for St. Joseph and St. John. The St. Philip Polyclinic is responsible for St. Philip and parts of St. George. Branford Tate responsible from Swan Street right down to Whole Town in St. James. And then from First Street in St. James right down to St. Lucie and St. Andrew is the Maurice Polyclinic. So I have given you the jurisdictions for all. There are 7 polyclinics. Each polyclinic is manned by a principal and a senior, and your complaints there. We have an agreement with the land tax department. So when persons call the polyclinic and say you, Jayan, and there's a lot next to you, and you could give the information on the lot number to the officer at the particular polyclinic, we could call the land tax and ask the land tax to go on the computer and tell us who owned the lot. The problem about some of these lots is that a lot of these lots, there are about 16,000 vacant lots that have concern to us, and a lot of these lots are owned by persons in the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, USA, Canada, all about. And you and I know that when we had we had first started having the issues with the coronavirus, no mill were leaving the island and going overseas. So that is also a challenge for us because some of these lot owners live overseas. But they could contact the polyclinic within their jurisdiction, and we write to the owners of these vacant lots. If the person is living in Barbados, we give them 7 to 14 days, and if it's living overseas, we 28 days. We give them 28 days
and then what?
To clear them.
And then what happens if they don't do it, if they don't comply?
Well, if they don't do it under the health services nuisances regulations, we could carry them to court under the health services nuisances regulations. We have the health services rodent control regulations, the health services mosquito control regulations. But of course, a person living overseas, then that will be a pretty difficult process. But we still have some persons who live overseas who have relatives here, and when we write them, they usually contact the relative to clear the lot. We also at the polyclinic have each polyclinic we usually always have a truck, a driver supervisor, and some general workers that also go and assist in the cleaning of these lots. But with this coronavirus, a lot of the personnel involved in that type of activity are also involved in helping with the coronavirus at the polyclinic in terms of swabbing and vaccines and assisting in spraying chairs and that sort of thing.
But take me back a little bit when you said that if they don't comply, then you go to court. We all know that takes forever. So you're saying that a person has to endure this. I'm living in my house, I'm trying to keep my house clean, following all the health rules. My neighbor decides that they're just going to have fridges, stoves, dogs, cats, without the, you know, places that people are concerned of, or even a lot. And you write them a letter, you have to wait, and then if they don't respond, then you take them to court. But then all that time, I'm frustrated. We're going to come back. Before you answer that, the producer said we got to take a quick break, and we're coming right back. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with MAURICE GASKIN, Principal Environmental Health Officer. Before the break, we were talking about what can be done and all the letters, etc. But before we get an answer, we want to take this call for you, Maurice. Good morning.
Good
Face
morning.
it and fix it. Good morning.
Enjoying a call for your guest. He's saying that we can call the various polyclinics to have them come about to clean up these sites. I'm telling you now, it is well over a year that I have been calling to ask them to come and clean up this site that's in Harry Smith Road in Wellhouse. And no one has turned up as yet. And people constantly, I have to come through that road in order to get to my house, right? At one time, I spoke to the inspector himself, and he had the nerve to tell me he is the inspector for this area, and he lives in this area. So far, it remains old fridges, old stoves, bush, everything is being pushed into this place. So
Which polyclinic would be for there, Maurice, Mr. Gaskin? That's 6 Rose?
6 Rose Polyclinic.
The caller could contact the St. Philip Polyclinic at 536-4240, right up to 4249. 536-4240, right up to 4249. The officer there for that area is there are 2 officers, Mrs. Sophia Ali and Mrs. Deborah Batson. Mrs. Sophia Ali and Mrs. Deborah Batson, 536-4240, right up to 4249.
So, ma'am, you still there? Okay, well, I'm not sure. Okay, well, we have the numbers, but I mean, I live in St. Philip too, so I have a concern as well. Okay, could you just repeat the number again for some of our listeners?
Right. St. Philip Polyclinic will be 536-4240, right up to 4249. And the 2 officers for that area, Mrs. Deborah Batson and Mrs. Sophia Ali.
So, okay, well, again, that's an example, and I know that there are many, many more because people find it very difficult to get assistance, and sometimes it causes us some arguments, and the police have to come in because of it. So you understand where this can go if it's not addressed. But you did say, because of COVID over the last almost 2 years, the Ministry of Health and the officers that would normally assist in these areas have somewhat been a little overwhelmed, having to deal with some other duties.
And to be fair to the Polyclinic catchment at St. Philip, the Office of the Environmental Health Officers is presently being renovated. So some of the officers are operating out of David Thompson Polyclinic and some out of the Randall Phillips Polyclinic due to those repairs. Here at my Polyclinic, I wrote a gentleman in the St. Thomas area this year since I was here. He had about 28 different fridges and stoves, and I'm pleased to report that I wrote him, quote the regulations, the nuisances regulation, collection, disposal, and all of them have been gone, have been removed. So, and
can you use the police? Can you use the police and things like that?
Well, what we do is nowadays you're having persons being aggressive. So what we do sometimes is have the police accompany us to the premises, and then when we speak to the person, we could also use the police as a witness when we take them to court. We have placed about 6 to 8 persons before the law court in the last 6 to 7 years.
But the police can't enforce, the police can't assist you and enforce what you have in that piece of paper?
No, we that company, the health services regulations, as I said, but we use the police as a witness in going with us to help quiet things, so to speak, because some persons get very aggressive and very violent when we have to visit them, or even when we write them and we have to revisit to see if what they're doing, they're actually doing. So we usually take the police to accompany us, and if we have to go to court, we could use the police as a witness that we did carry the police there on this particular day and so on. But we have placed, we look at it as a last resort, but we have placed about 6 to 8 persons before the law court in the last 6 to 7 years.
Well,
And some of them have been fined.
well,
$3,000, one man was fined $3,000, some $500 and so on.
I don't think that's enough because we're in a COVID environment. We have rules, we've got mask wearing, we said, you know, we talk about sanitizing and these are things that, you know, we can hurt each other. But when persons, and I hope they're listening carefully, practice dumping on their premises or on big open lots, it creates a health problem then for individuals in the area, and dengue kills. It's not contagious from human to human, but it is from mosquito to human and then to another human being from that same mosquito. So in a sense, it is almost as bad as COVID, if you want to put it that way. So the same actions, and I'm making an appeal now here, I mean, who's listening, the government may want to consider that the same actions that we have taken for mask wearing and the fines that people may get for breaking a curfew, I really feel that that should be the case for people who create a space that allows for the breeding of mosquitoes and rats that will then hurt other people in their neighborhood. And I think it's more than a letter that should be written to these people, though.
But Jayan, what we do, as I say, this book, this is the book for mosquito breeding. We remember Barbados is celebrating 55 years of independence next week. Barbados became independent in 1966, and we were able to make our public health laws from 1969. So most of the laws you will see, 1969, the mosquito 1970, control, collection and disposal 1975, tobacco regulations 2010. So, but most of these regulations started in 1969. If we take someone to court, the magistrate has the right to fine them up to $5,000 and or 12 months in jail, fine or confine. $5,000 and or 12 months in jail. And if we take someone to court, Jayan, today, and the magistrate put $3,000 on them today, what the magistrate will do is tell the officer to go back and check the person's premises, and for every day that premises remain dirty, it is $200 additional for every day it remains like that. So the owners, when the laws were made in 1969, as I said, $5,000, it was a lot of money at that time. It probably may want raising in this time, but the magistrate has the right to fine the person up to $5,000 or even give them a jail term.
I think that is good, but the time between the complaint and getting the letter and then the action after that when they don't comply is the problem that I have, because then the neighbors getting bitten up and the children getting dengue and old people in the meantime. That's why I'm concerned.
But Jayan, you must understand that if the principals at the polyclinic usually visit a complaint, then they cannot prosecute. I will have to ask the deputy chief or the chief or someone else to prosecute. When we prosecute, person go to court, then probably they get a lawyer and the case could be adjourned and that sort of thing. So the onus then will be on the judiciary to court for the court to decide what action they're going to take in terms of punishment. But we use it as a last resort, but we sometimes get a good response from some neighborhoods in terms of the care of the vehicle lots and so on.
Well, I think it's good, but again, I know over the years, and even having worked at Water Authority, when you go and you talk to people, they talk about water, and then the next thing is this neighbor, my neighbor. Always a neighbor that creates some sort of problem within the street, and then they send pictures, and then the next complaint is similar to what that lady just said. No one then responds. So we're hoping that that is something that your ministry, and it's certainly that area by Harry Smith Beach, that you can share with your colleagues, and hopefully they're listening, that is something that they can do to help. But in closing, I just want to get back to what we originally were speaking about, dengue. Would you have any information pertaining to how many people would have passed, or how many cases we had in 2020, and what we're looking at now in 2021, or you wouldn't have that information?
I wouldn't have that information,
Okay.
but in having our management meetings, we have not heard during our management discussions of anyone who have passed from dengue. What I could tell you, between 1999 and probably 2019, we will probably had about 65 deaths from dengue between 1999 and 2019.
So just to reiterate, because I don't want anyone to misunderstand, you're not saying that people have not passed from dengue in 2020, because they have. And they have passed from dengue in 2021.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard any discussion on it.
Okay.
But
All
as
right.
I said,
You wouldn't have that information, so we wouldn't leave it. I wouldn't put you on that spot. I just wanted to know if you did, because I do know that there have been cases of dengue reported, and unfortunate deaths due to dengue. I don't know how many, but certainly that's a show that we would want to carry. Now, I want to leave final words at you. What advice would you like to give Barbadians now in the fight against dengue? Because we've got COVID, and as you said, the combination of catching COVID and dengue is extremely deadly. What advice would you like to give Barbadians?
My advice would be that each householder should look around the premises every day for at least 10 to 15 minutes, check the drums, floor vases, the tires should be placed under shade away from rainwater, check the grease traps, check the toothbrush holders, check the drip pan behind the fridge, and in terms of the insecticides, changing the insecticides, calling the polyclinics if you are having a huge amount of mosquitoes and so on, call the polyclinics for assistance. And that will be my advice. Ensure that you try not to wear dark clothing to be bitten. You should also purchase a good repellent that can last 6 to 8 hours instead of a repellent that will last just for half hour. Remember, a repellent don't kill mosquitoes. What a repellent does, if I leave this polyclinic and go outside to the front and catch a ZR van, and I sit next to a paro who did not bathe for 3 days, then they're going to hold my nose. So when you put on a repellent, you smell bad to the mosquito, so the mosquito avoid you. So if you buy a repellent that only lasts half hour, you have to keep reapplying it every hour or so. So look for a good brand repellent that lasts 6 to 8 hours. You can also purchase the dumps. If you don't want to purchase the dumps, there's a good product called Aquitaine you could also buy from the hardware that could help deal with the mosquitoes and so on. You need to grade your roof gutters, and you should not over-wet your plants. Instead of wetting your plants with traditional water, you should use ice cubes. And if you do that, then if you find mosquitoes around your premises, you use kerosene or diesel or bleach, preferably kerosene oil. And if you do follow those things, then you should not have any mosquitoes.
I want to thank you so much. This was a load of information, a lot of things I did not know, and I'm telling you, our viewers and listeners are saying the same thing, especially the one where you said change the insecticide, the spray. Don't keep buying the same thing, because the mosquitoes, 10 of them will go back, and when they have eggs and they come into mosquitoes, then that doesn't do anything for them. And that in itself was an eye-opener for me. So, Mr. Gaskin, Maurice Gaskin, Principal Environmental Health Officer, I wish to thank you, sir.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you. When we come back, we will be
Too.
speaking. Thank you. When we come back, we will be speaking with Mark Forde, attorney at law. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It before we go on to our next guest. So since our last show, we had Mark Forde on and we had a heated discussion about evictions, and it went on to talk about child support and the rights of children and the males. I came down pretty heavy on the men, that there were a lot of delinquent daddies and absent daddies more so than there are moms. There are a lot of moms too, but you know, men sort of, for some reason, the numbers are a little bit higher when it comes to the males. So we said we will continue the discussion today about them, but I also want to make sure that we are fair, because we have to be balanced here. And women, and I know I probably will get some licks from some female friends that I have, but there's some women who don't necessarily make good mothers either. And there's some fathers that actually do a better job at parenting than the mothers. So I don't want the discussion that we had, or even the one we're about to have, to be seen as if we are men bashing, because we are not. Honestly, I'm certainly not. But it's just there's too many of you males that fall short with your responsibilities, and I'm not quite sure why you do. I believe that's another discussion, perhaps maybe for a psychologist or a psychiatrist, to let us figure out why that happens. But when Mark comes on shortly, he will be letting us know about what rights men actually have, and women as it relates to seeing children. So okay, thank you very much. Apparently, I've just been informed, and thank you very much, that today marks 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual international campaign that kicks off on November 25th, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and runs until 10th December, Human Rights Day. It was started by activists at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute in 1991 and continues to be coordinated each year by the Center for Women's Global Leadership. Now, in all honesty, I mean, I think that is great, but again, I think that we should also have one for women and men as well, I should say. It goes on to say it is used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations around the world to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. In support of this civil society initiative, the United Nations Secretary General's Unite by 2030 to End Violence Against Women campaign, Unite campaign calls for global actions to increase awareness, galvanize advocacy efforts, and share knowledge and innovations. The global theme for this year's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence will run from 25th November to December 10th, 2021, and is Orange the World, End Violence Against the Women Now is the slogan. And most people will keep saying that there's always this cry about violence against women, and this is true because it seems to be so overpowering against the women. But there's also violence against men, and I'm hoping that similarly and equally, if we're talking about gender equality, that we don't only look at violence against women, but we also look at the violence against men, because it does actually happen and men just don't come forward, and that is another discussion. Welcome, Mark Forde, to the show.
Hi, good morning.
Good to see you again.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much. Good to see you as well, Joyanne.
Well, the last time we spoke, one of our viewers on social media said that I wasn't giving you a chance to respond, so I'm going to make sure that this time I do. And I listen to our viewers. I accept the constructive criticism, the only way I can get better. But I was very passionate about the absence of males in the lives of their children and the fact that they fail to pay child support. But today I'm hoping to make sure I create a greater balance, because it's not only about delinquent dads, but we do have delinquent moms. Granted that we don't see them as regular as we do see the men. So let's start with this question, our scenario. Man and woman, they have child together. She no longer wants the male, she has the child. She goes and she registers the child, and she leaves the man out completely. So there's no proof of who the father is. Father now wants to see his child. She refuses. What can this man do, and what is his first step?
Well, his first step, he since his name is not on the birth certificate, he has to go to the court. He has to make an application. It's unfortunate, Joyanne, that he has to go through all of that in order to secure his right if he is the father of the child. But he has to make an application to the High Court in order to have his name. And of course, he'll have to, that will be supported by affidavit proof before the court, explaining how, why, where, when, etc. As an affidavit, of course, for those who do not know, is a statement of truth surrounding circumstances that would lead to the application that you want, the outcome of which you want, to support your claim, in other words. So that's what you have to do.
But will that include a DNA?
What he should do actually is to try to get that beforehand. And that, of course, would buttress his argument.
But how can you get a DNA if the mother doesn't want you to be a part of the child's life? That would then have to be court ordered.
That would have to be court ordered if she refuses. Because if she knows full well that and I say that in inverted commas, because I say knows full well, I am often told, I'm a man, but I'm often told that women know, even if they have more than one partner, they know who the father of the child is. Of course, that's not a foolproof.
But you better tell that to Maury on Maury's show. But go ahead.
But in a case like that, in all seriousness, you'll have to have the court order a DNA, because it is a DNA test. I'm sorry, because that is his right to prove that he is indeed the father of the child. And after that, then seeking if he has that proof, seeking an order from the court should not be a difficult situation.
Okay, so when that step is taken, what rights would a man, what does he have in terms of, he's not together with a girl, was in a real relationship, they have a child together, they need to co-parent, but they don't live together. What are the rules?
Sorry, you dropped out there. Your question is what exactly?
Basically, what are the rules for your both parents, and the child is coming to this world? What is the legal commitments that the father has? What legal commitments he has to make towards the child, and similarly to the mother, financially, of
Well,
course.
well, first of all, both parents have a duty to support that child, to provide maintenance in terms of finance, and I dare say, other forms of moral support and so on. But we're talking right now, I believe, about financial support, maintenance, and both parties have a duty to that child to provide support to the extent that they can do so.
Is it 50-50 or?
The court often looks at, there are a slew of things that the court looks at as outlined in the Act. And one of those things would be, of course, the earnings of each party, what the Act says, the parties, the health of the parties, of course, the ability to work, the means otherwise, not just a job, but savings in the court, that type of thing. All the parameters that would inform a court to say, well, look, you have this, you have that. You can't just tell me I'm not working right now because you have provided evidence, or we have found out through discovery that you have $10,000 in the bank, for example. So you can't simply tell the woman or the man, if you're being equal, I ain't working. So all those things are looked at when you look at maintenance. So age and state of health, income, property. Well, normally a woman for a small child would have care and control of the child. I think it's fair to say that unless the circumstances are a little unusual, the mother would have day-to-day care
Up to
and
what
control
age?
of the
Oh,
child.
up to what age?
Yeah, well, we're talking about minors under 18.
No, but I
Under
mean in
18
terms of
years
care and control. Obviously, granted, it's a baby. The mother needs to breastfeed the child, so the child
Yeah, yeah.
obviously needs mommy more. But there's obviously at a stage, even before primary school, that the child comes off of breast milk and a little bit more independent and requires mom less, but probably daddy can step in because the child is now eating cooked food and no longer requiring breast milk, or probably not even wearing Pampers anymore. That's why I asked, up until what age does she have that major set of, care and control
There's no,
over?
there's no set age, Jordan.
Okay.
There's no set age. Because one of the other things that a court would look at would be the needs of the child. The needs. And to me, it is, I think it's difficult to imagine a scenario whereby a child, let's say a girl child, 5 years old, 4 years old, and the father says, no, I want her with me. I think a court would be hard pressed to say, go with the father, unless the circumstances so inform. For example, is the mother a drug addict? You see? Does she live in circumstances, like, for example, Joy, and I like to get real at times because it brings home points. I had a client once where I'm not going to go into the outcome, that's not important. Where the mother lived was a depressed area. But that wasn't the main thing. The father's complaint was that you had a girl child, about 10 years old, sleeping in a room with about 4 other children, some of whom were males older than herself. And the company that was kept by the mother on the steps on the outside, inside the house, was one, my instructions were of smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol on a regular basis. Now, I think even a person who is quite liberal would say those circumstances are not ideal. Those circumstances spell disaster, potentially, yeah? So I'm saying that when you look at situations like that, the court might very well say, listen, to the extent a father can provide better circumstances, whether through the child's aunts, his sisters, or grandmother, we will determine that the child should go with, or we will decide that the child should go with the father. You follow me?
Yeah, so basically mothers have a little bit more leeway when it comes to these things, which I can understand. But when fathers, and there are fathers, and I know one in particular, who has a 7-year-old daughter, and the mother isn't around, and one day he asked if the mother, he called the mother and said, you know, could you hold her for a little bit? And her response was, I have no money, I ain't got no food, what I can get you to eat. And he just says, okay, thank you very much, and that was that. And that mother did not really show back up. So, I mean, again, it doesn't happen regular, but we do have females out there that certainly don't make good parents, and they don't. And what we must admit is not only the fathers. But let's get on now to the fact that some men have complained that they pay child support. The money does not go to in the best interest of the child, spent by the mother. And when they make a plea at the court and there's this argument and she wants more, because sometimes they can go to court for an increase. They're saying that oftentimes the men are arguing, but I give her and she don't give the child. So the men feel that they want the money for them. I don't know whether or not they can bring proof to court of a weave or a receipt of purchases made of weaves and nails and whatever for them to say that. So I don't know how they come up with that. Unless it's a, man just want to be spiteful. Maybe, I don't know. But how is that treated in the court when the man is paying money and the woman wants more and she's not spending the money on the child or in the best interest of the child?
Well, you often see, and Joanne, I remember early in my practice, I spent a lot more time in court, in what we'll call family court, even though it's not a family court per se. And even after my matter would have been completed, I would sit just for education purposes and watch how these things play out. And very, very often there would be a court order in place. Let's say, for the sake of this discussion, let's say the mother has 2 children for a particular man and she gets $100 a week. So she'll go and say, listen, things are expensive. I can't support these 2 children I got for this man on $100 a week, And oftentimes the magistrate will say, how much do you want, madam? How much you want? And oftentimes they don't know. They just say they want more. So a woman or a party should go and say, well, look, I need $50 more because of X, Y, and Z. And then the court will ask the gentleman, we're assuming it's a woman going forward, can you afford $50 more per week? Oftentimes the immediate answer is no. But of course, that's where the whole discussion and what you bring to the court comes into play. So when a person goes and says, I want more money, you have to have proof on both sides. You say, why do you want more money? The last court order was $100, for example. And the father will say, well, look, I can't afford this because of X. Or I can afford 25 more, but I can't afford 50. I don't know to what extent that might have answered your question, Joyanne.
So when they get, okay, let's just say they're paying. The woman wants more, they're giving her whatever she needs. But she is not bringing the child to see the father. She makes up all kind of excuses. The man is getting frustrated. He wants to see his child. Now that is a real situation there, because I know of one person who was married, who was getting a divorce quickly after, and it took him 8 years. And he was a doctor, by the way. And, and some stories. Now, let me just say this, women, I am a woman, and I can say this. There's some women out there that really can manipulate the whole system in a way that is not It's not good. It's not fair to men. So I don't want to sit here and just make it seem as if, men don't want to pay, they don't want to do this. There are some women that can drive men in a mental state to the point that, it really hurts. So
It's
when you and unfortunately they can't really react, because if they shout, if they do something which they shouldn't, then you hear that they're aggressive, or it's almost like they can't win in some situations when it comes to some women. And it's something that I would like for the courts and judges to really look at moving forward, because women are not always right. They are not always right. They don't always have the right to everything that they want from a man in terms of a child and in child support and so on and so forth. So I just say that to say this, that when it becomes a problem of not being able to see your child after paying child support, if we can answer that question after the break as to what happens, I'm sure the public would love to know. We will be back after the break.
Okay.
Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with attorney at law Mark Forde. If you are just joining us, we're talking about child support, and we're talking about males and females and who has the right to do what and who is entitled to what. And it gets a little crazy sometimes in relationships. As we know, we hear all types of far-fetched stories. I'm sure the judge and attorneys are entertained somewhat sometimes, because it can get really crazy. But before the break, I was asking about the man, when he pays everything, but he does not get to see his child, what happens then? He makes an application and back to the court? Or he shows up and he grabs his child up and said, I'm coming to see my child?
No, the safe way is to go back to court. And I know that this going to court thing, Joyanne, sometimes is a drain on an individual. Because the average person, which most of us, I believe, are, would say, "Gee, this is my right. This is my right, and I still have to fight just to see my child." Speaking specifically now to what you're talking about, and but I know that the courts make an effort when they make an order for maintenance to say, "Now, let us talk about access of the father." I'm going to use father now, to see his child or children, and he will make an order John, I want to share something with you, and I don't remember whether I shared it last week. It was one that I am not ashamed to say brought a tear to my eye up in St. Joseph Court. Did I speak to that?
No, I don't think
District
so. I don't think so.
one. This lady brought this gentleman to court, a father of two children, 9 and 11 years old, and she requested maintenance, applied for maintenance, and the magistrate of the time, and I remember it was Magistrate Simmons, and he said, okay, now I've made the order for maintenance. Let's talk about access. This man has to see his children. So he asked the father, how often do you want to see your boys? And the man shrugged his shoulders. I'm like, okay. So then Magistrate Simmons said, okay, every weekend. The man shrugged his shoulders. Every other weekend, the magistrate asked. The man shrugged his shoulders. And then he said, you don't want to see the boys at all? The man shrugged his shoulders, Joyanne. I looked across at Sergeant Bell, who was sitting in the court. He looked at me. And we were like, this cannot be real. We must be living in some twilight zone, you know? Because you know what bothers and hurts me, Joyanne, is if in a case like this, one of those boys or both of them end up being quote unquote somebody or an athlete representing Barbados, some of these same individuals, a father in this case, will say, that's my son, boy. Really?
Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me. I got to tell you, and this has nothing to do with law.
Mm-hmm. It would bother me too when people claim children all of a sudden when they do something great, all of a sudden that's
when they
my
do
daughter.
something great.
Extra,
You see?
yeah.
And this sort of thing, not that exact scenario, but as I used to sit in court and I'm saying this thing is playing out in several courts today and tomorrow and next week. You know
What happens if the mother, let's say that the mother, child's born, mother does not want anything to do with the father, but the father is trying and he gets through, let's say a year or two, the law allows him to. Can she say, but you owe me 2 years of child support, no? No, understand, you have not allowed the man to see the child. You have done everything to stop him from seeing the child. He's gone now to legal counsel, gotten help. Now he has visitation. Can she ask for 2 years, for example, of maintenance back? Saying he didn't have access, nothing, she didn't ask for anything or anything like that at the time. Can she just say to the court, well, you know what? If y'all gone this way, he owe me 2 years back of money. Can she do that?
Well, I think she can, because if there was a court order and there are still arrears, no, he will argue it wasn't my fault.
There was no court order if it's this case, because she was trying to say there's no court order.
If there was no
the woman
order,
knows if the woman doesn't want anything, she has her baby, she wants nothing to do with the guy. The father now proceeds to find ways to see his child legally, and it takes 2 years. When the judge says, listen, you have to let this man see this child, can she then say, well, you owe me 2 years of child support?
Don't see it.
Okay.
Because if given the scenario you just gave me, she said, I want nothing to do with you. I'm good. I don't want no support for this child. I live in, you follow me? That's what I understood you to say.
Yes.
So if she said, I don't want any support, I don't want anything to do with you, I'm good. She can't now come and say, because she's not coming with clean hands. And even though that expression is normally applied to someone else in court, I'm going to use it here. Because I know some lawyers will say, no, you can't use that there, but I'm using it. You didn't come with clean hands. You said you want nothing to do with the man, and hey, you can't now come and say, oh, he owes me 2 years of child support. No, I don't see it. Right?
So how long does it take for custody hearings when men are having trouble seeing their children and visitation? Because you're wasting precious time of their development while the court is trying to decide what to do. How quickly do we see these things happening? Judges, can it rally out for years?
No, you're talking about custody. You're talking high court. You see, I cannot. That has no specific answer, because even now in the high court, some cases are taking much longer than say 10 years ago to come to court.
But visitation is the same. Will carry the same.
Well, visitation, in the cases we were talking about now, this is often done in magistrate's court, and you likely get there faster within a couple of months, or less. You should be able to get into court and have a hearing, to see your child. But I wanted, Joyanne, I realized I didn't fully answer your question about the mother taking money and using it for something else, like weaves. I'm only using the one that you
No,
use.
I said weaves because that's what the guys would normally say, but she buying things to go on party to look pretty. So
Yeah.
that's why they're saying that some of them are saying that she's spending the money on herself and not on the child.
Which may or may not be true. Because again, a lot of the anger, angst, and bad feeling often comes between the parties, where one party has moved on to another partner. You follow me? So suddenly those bad feelings come up. But oftentimes, I can't give a percentage, but oftentimes the child will have a speaking relationship with a party who does not live with them. And whether they telephone them or they have a phone. And I've had situations where my instructions were that the child has told me that I give money every month, and the child saying she don't get feed properly. There's nothing in the house to eat. When she says, "Mommy, I hungry," she would give some excuse or barely get anything. So oftentimes the children complain. I can't say 90% of the time, Joyanne, or 70, but I have had those situations where they say the children are complaining that they're not getting what they should be getting from the mother in this case. So the father assumes or concludes that she using money for something else. She going to get hairdo, she going out when the night come, she doing whatever, but not supporting my child the way she should with the money that I am providing.
All right, so let me switch it now for the men that don't pay.
Right.
The ones that buy the rims and for the cars first. The ones that decided that they're drinking Hennessy, because they can't say they're not being fair today. I started out and I put it on the women as to when they don't want to do this. Well, let's talk about the men.
Yeah.
So when they don't want to pay, and there's a court order, for example, and they don't show up in court, and mommy is taking a bus to find out what's going on and paying $7, not working, waiting on this help, do we still put men up in Her Majesty's Dodds? And how many payments do you miss before they activate marshals and do that? Or there's no specific?
There's no specific. I know that I would say that the 42 days thing up the road, quote unquote, used to be much more popular at one time. But now, since there have been rallies, when they say rallies, people have rallied against this because they're saying, look, if the man is up at Dodds, he has no opportunity to provide support anyway, so what's the sense? But a magistrate may get upset enough after enough delays, pleadings, encouragings, and all the rest of it, and talks to these people, say, you know what, I've had enough of you. You go in and spend a little time up the road. But it is a last resort, Jaya. It is a last resort.
But don't you think the law, you said it more or less is with the mother, the care and control, young child.
Control.
And maybe we need to, I know you can't mandate a man to spend time with his child. You can't mandate even the mother, because if you don't want a child, you're free to walk out of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and leave the baby. I don't think there's no law stating that. If you say, look, I don't want a child, or I can't handle this, there's been women who have walked away and left children at the QEH, maybe based on the fact that they had challenges, disabled, they couldn't deal with it. I don't think there's a law that stops them from doing it. But
Right.
when the men know, if they get away with, they don't have to wake up in the middle of the night, they're gone. The woman is running behind them for the child support every day.
Yeah.
And it feels like and I know they feel as if no one does anything about it in a timely manner. In the meantime, while she's waiting on that money, she has to feed that child. So
Yes.
she's feeling the pressure. She's there with the crying and the tears and the whatever, Don't get me wrong, I'm a little annoyed at some women where if it happens and it happens once and it happens a second time and you realize you ain't doing it, I don't see how you got pregnant from a second time, or
Yeah.
a third time from another person, and then a fourth. No judgments here, but I'm saying that when they fall into that cycle, it's more depressing for them. Because remember,
Yeah.
I believe I can speak on some of the women I've spoken to. Each time they have a child with someone else, they're hoping that that someone is the one. Because sometimes men will say, they're the one, and they're desperate for some support and some help. But what I don't like is that the law can't mandate the man to carry the same weight or similar burden of time, of spending time,
Yeah.
as they do with finances.
Yeah, John, if you think about it, which I'm sure you indeed have, but I'm speaking generally. If one thinks about it, you may say, okay, you, John Brown, quote unquote, will spend every other weekend with this child from Friday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at 6 p.m., at which time you shall return the child to the mother. The man says, okay, fine, if that's your court order, fine. Then the child goes over for the first weekend. Maybe things go okay, right? The next weekend, some friends come over, some drinking buddies, and he says, take your child across by his sister for an hour or two, which ends up being 5 hours. And then he comes back half drunk, and there's no quality time. The point I am making is that where is the quality time that he should have been spending, maybe reading, watching a little child movie, something with that child, taking her out to the park or something? Because his focus is not really on the child. His focus is on having a good time, and the child is a sideline. The child would have been better in those circumstances, I would posit, left with the mother. You see? So there is no set rule, because in relationships, as I'm sure you would appreciate, there is no playbook.
Well, when
There,
we're gonna take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the spike game. When you hear about the spike game, you can
yeah.
you can see the child only if, or because he has a girlfriend and she's angry, then that then plays out in front of the child and impacts the level of support and child support. When we come back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with attorney at law, Mr. Mark Forde, and before the break, we were talking about women and men and children, and I wanted to talk about the spike game. And the spike game is he's got another girl, and she says, you can't see the child, or I don't want the child. Now, he's paying child support, but the mother refuses to send the child because she doesn't like the new girlfriend. How often do we see that? And does that come up in the court? Regular.
Often it comes up in the court, and sometimes it is not stated. I remember being in Holtown Court once, and the magistrate, after all the circumstances and the facts were produced to the court, the magistrate said, I can see exactly what is going on here. I can see. So even when the father in this particular instance said, please send my son over, I want to take him to get a haircut, her position was, I don't want he in that house with you because the woman is there. And but Joyanne, who suffers?
The child.
Child suffers. You know, and sometimes, you know, I know it could be difficult. It can be difficult. But you really have to rise above that and think that the child should be at the forefront of your thoughts all the time.
It should be, and I find that the system again, women, I probably will get licks again. I think that maybe we're moving towards this whole equal rights and justice, and women want equality, but we can't have selective equality. I mean, in other words, whenever certain things happen, leaning towards a woman because it's a woman, then that's not fair. Then to the men. So a father's role is just as important as a woman's role as a mother. But we grew up in a culture and society globally that pushes the mother as the one that has all of the say. And men start to get pushed aside, and their role somewhat diminishes. It's actually, even when you look at things as simple as Mother's Day and Father's Day.
Yeah.
Celebrate it more with the mothers. Some people, you know, with the fathers, not as much. And I'm hopeful that, because, you know, even today with violence against women, and, you know, people expect that women, being the weaker of the two sexes physically, and that obviously happened over the years where you find that. But no one then speaks about violence against men from women who can't retaliate.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get, obviously they don't want to get in trouble. And two, if they take it, but they go and complain to the police then laugh at them.
Listen, like laugh at them, you see?
You know, so I'm just saying that men, even though, Lord, you know, there are some that you kind of ask yourself if the parents could have made a better decision, because they're horrible, some of them. But similarly, there are women that are just as bad. But if we want society that is fair, it really should start then when we're talking about children and the parenting. I just think it should be equal right across the board. Equal money, equal time, if possible. Of course, maybe some person, as you said, working and the other person isn't, and it may vary. Are we seeing the courts being more lenient and understanding towards the men? Because men have been complaining for years that they have been dismissed and treated with a level of disrespect sometimes in a court, and nobody's hearing them. Are we seeing them being treated a little bit more? They get more of a voice in the system.
I can't speak to that specifically, Joe. I can't say yay or nay, to be honest with you. It is, I can't say. I know that oftentimes, as with so many issues, people, where these things are spoken about, and I know it has been spoken about at so many levels, I believe that the courts are looking into it more closely perhaps than before. You know, in the same way that I gave my example at District F, whereby, you know, the magistrate would have said, hey, yes, I'm going to make an order for maintenance, but this man must have access to his children. He must have access. Now, if he abuses that access, that's another matter. But he must have access, and I'm going to make an order for access.
Okay, so I got another question, is because we soon go to time, but it's on a slightly different subject, still to do with children. What is the age of consent? 16? Legal?
Are you talking sexual activity?
Sexual activity. What is
16.
the age?
16.
What is the age your mother can put you out of a house? And you know they say, but you're a big woman now, get out my house. Is it 16 or is it 18?
That's a situation. Is you really and truly, you're not an adult until you're 18. So it would be 18.
So the law then allows for girls and boys to have sex. Parents clearly are not present, so they didn't get permission, but they are free to have sex at 16. Girl gets pregnant, but can't make a decision to keep the baby or not without the consent of the mother, her mother. Is that our parent? Is that correct?
Please repeat the last thing you said, but cannot make a decision to keep the baby?
She has to have a parent present for medical care, or if she's going to have the child, she has to have some level of consent.
That is my understanding, that the mother has to get involved, or a parent has to get involved.
A parent has to get involved.
At that stage. And to me, it is not a good situation. That 2-year difference should not exist, in my opinion.
I think that the Constitution moving forward are those things things that we're looking at changing, because the law in the Constitution covers things like that in terms of age of consent, in terms of age of voting. We can vote at 18 years old. So I'm saying, but why don't we just put everything at 18? Put the age to get a license. You should be able to get a permit at 16 to learn to drive, but you should not be eligible for a license until you are 18, because you're 2 years. It shouldn't. I mean, I'm saying that put everything at 18, because a lot of the laws, as you well know, are archaic and independence, and it wrote a lot of things that have to be changed.
As far as I am concerned, sexual activity is an adult activity, and so to tell a child at 16 that you can engage legally in sexual intercourse, to me, is what's the word I'm looking for? Is really a no-no. In my opinion, it shouldn't be, but it is. And let's face it, John, I'm sure you will agree with me, that most children at 16 can't afford to take care of a child. No,
not even at 18. I had my first child at 19. But we got a caller. She just wants to lay out the scenario, and she'll put down and listen to the response. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good morning. I give you a scenario here that happened to my nephew. He took his daughter's mother to court because he was not seeing the child or anything. No, it's 2 years that he haven't seen the child. Right. He didn't see the child for about 2 years, and keep on calling the mother and telling her about the child. He wants to see the child, so she would not let him see the child. So it went to court. He went court not too long ago, and he told me the judge just didn't give him a chance to speak. The judge didn't ask him how he works, what salary he is making, nothing like that. And all asking the lady how much money she wants. She wants $100 or $200 a week, something like that, right? So I a bit strong on that, because I really and truly cannot understand what really happened there. It's unfair. To me, it's unfair. He's a very good father. He is a great father to his kids. He loves the little girl. But the thing is, and And what I can say is that he, his visiting rights now is that he has to go to collect the little girl on Saturdays, take her back on Saturday evening because she can't even sleep, go for her on Sundays, and take her back at Sunday nights. That sounds like madness. As I
No.
said to you, he didn't have time at all to speak to the judge. The judge would not let him say anything. 'Cause he asked if he could speak. She said no. So everything went to the ladies, to the daughter's mother.
All
I
right.
find
Thank you.
I find
Mark, I'll
that,
let you respond in like 2 minutes because we soon run out of time. Because
yeah,
you see,
I
it's the
find
same thing
that
I'm
really,
saying. Men, and I'm not picking up for them, but truthfully, women need to stop the manipulation. Women need to. I mean, I ask myself, wait, y'all don't need a break. You think I would tell? I have two children fathers. One I was married, and then divorced, and I had another child. You really think that when they said, "Can I see my kid?" I'm like, "Here, would you like some extra Pampers?" type of thing. I need a break. So when they
you need a
do
break.
that, they're only spiting themselves. But answer the lady if you want to respond.
Yeah, I would hate to think. I find it highly odd that a party to a matter before the court cannot speak. I have never seen that. I have never seen that. And while I don't want to confront the caller with any questions, I I find it odd that, and of course, what we're hearing is, of course, hearsay. This is what she was
But
told, and she's
Mark,
now
I can
telling.
be honest with you. I've heard that many times from various men
I
over
have,
the years that they didn't feel, and you could sense that the magistrate really wasn't having it, really wasn't giving them a chance. And this is the first time I used to be a host in another program that came out too there from some men. Men felt
I have,
aggrieved.
because everybody has one of the basic tenets of going to court is that you have a right to be heard. You have a right to be heard. Now, to what extent you might want to talk or whatever might be, that's at the discretion of the judge. But a judge really is not within his or her, a magistrate, within his or her right, or judge, to say, you can't talk, I'm not hearing you. That is highly odd. However, um, it is, let's say it is what it is, but what the he will have to do if he is unhappy with the order that was made, he'll have to go back to court. Hopefully, there might be another magistrate, or he can go to court. I get the impression he did not have an attorney because I'm going to assume, Joyanne, that there was no attorney there because in the facts given to us just now, she just said he couldn't speak,
Well,
and
but be
I
honest with you, Mark, in all fairness, unless it's legal aid, because we got to wrap up, unless it's legal aid, if you can't pay child support or, that much, chances are you can't afford an attorney either. But we have to, we'll take a break
but
quickly.
there's
And
legal aid for that.
well, we do have to wrap up because we do have to take a
All right.
break. I do want to thank you. It feels like if these conversations there's another part and then there's another part. So hopefully we can invite you back
Yeah.
again and we can continue. I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We'll
You're
be
most
back
welcome. Thank you.
after the break.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. As we wrap up the show, I just want to reflect on a few things. And it's about violence against women and violence against men. Everybody has a day. I'm not sure if they have a day for men, but we hear about it more and more, about men complaining about being abused by women as well. Obviously, the reports we get, more women have been abused, but I certainly don't want to discount the fact that men don't always get a fair hearing. They don't like to go to the police to explain themselves because of fear of people laughing at them. And I'm hoping to see, as we go along, moving forward, is more equality. People understand that women, if you want your rights, men, you want your rights. No one should be violent to anybody at all, and it should be about human rights and not just split up into genders. That's just my thing. We know that Monday coming up is the day before Independence, and we look forward to that show and hopefully and your calls, and we can talk a lot about what it means to you, independence, and what has been fixed over the years and what needs fixing. So I am about to sign off. I want to wish everybody a fantastic weekend. Please be safe. Remember, the numbers are still up. Please put your mask on. Please sanitize. Please distance. And of course, I still encourage you, if you can vaccinate, do so. And let's get this country back to some sense of normalcy. I am looking forward to not only independence, but the Christmas holidays, but independence first. So please, whatever you do, be safe out there and be careful out there and have a wonderful weekend. And I don't know if I should say Happy Republic Weekend because we're turning into a republic in the next few days. And I'm pretty excited for what that means for us. And as we break away and we feel like we're fully now independent and we can have some new rules, or should I say amend the Constitution, we have an opportunity to put some changes out there and make them ours. So until we meet again, my name is Joanne Haigh. This has been Face It and Fix It. I'll see you on Monday.